August has about a week left in it, and when it goes, exactly one thing changes out there. It stops being about this year. Whatever you do in the next few days, the plant doesn't spend on flowers. It spends it underground, on roots, and you don't get the bill until March. Nothing you do this week looks like anything this week. That's why nobody talks about it. So, 5 jobs. Number 5 takes 10 minutes and a pair of eyes today, and it's the iris. Number 2 isn't a job at all. It's an envelope and a stamp, the only clock in this video measured in months, not days. And number 1 is a job you have to not do. There's a plant out there looking terrible right now, and cutting it down this week costs you flowers in June. I'm Walter, 35 years of notebooks. Number 5, bearded iris, and I'm starting here because this one you can settle before dinner. A few weeks back, I showed you how to lift and split these. What I never showed you was what to do when you get one out of the ground and something's wrong with it. Go and look at the base of the fans, where the leaves meet that thick knuckle of root sitting half out of the soil. Minnesota's diagnostic page, ragged brown leaf tissue at the base of the leaf, tattered looking, and, this is the one, sawdust-like frass. Frass is droppings. Something has been eating in there. Being straight about what you'll find. Up north, the caterpillar has already gone. Minnesota has them moving down into the soil to pupate in late July or early August. Further south, where Virginia Tech has pupation only beginning in August, you may still find a fat pink grub in the rhizome. Either way, what matters is what moved in after it. Missouri Botanical Garden. The borer's feeding opens the rhizome up to soft rot. Wisconsin says it from the other end. The rotting is caused by soft rot bacteria that colonize the borer's feeding areas. Slimy, soft, and a smell you will not mistake for anything else. Here's the job, and the window is open right now. Lift the clump. Missouri Botanical. Dig them, inspect them, cut out the damaged ones, replant. The University of Missouri adds the step people skip. Trim back to sound, healthy tissue, then leave it in the sun for at least 2 days before it goes back in the ground. The universities don't agree on how far to go. Missouri and Virginia Tech say cut out the bad and save it. Minnesota and Iowa State say throw the tunneled ones away. That's a judgment about how much firm rhizome is left in your hand. One last thing almost nobody is told. Don't put it back in the same spot. That's the University of Missouri, and it's there because the rot organism is in that soil now. New hole. The foot or 2 over is me, not them. Before number 4, if you'd rather have this in one place than chase a different video for every month of the year, a friend of mine and I put it into one guide. It goes month by month through what we actually do out here, what we deliberately leave alone, and the jobs we stopped doing once we found out they weren't helping. It's called the Low Maintenance Garden Blueprint. It's at henrysgardensecrets.com, and the link is right below this video. This is the only mention. Now, number 4 looks like the dullest thing in this video. It's the only one that kills by frost rather than by thirst. Putting the can away because the flowering is over. Here's what's going on under your feet. West Virginia's extension. Perennial roots carry on growing slowly at 45 degrees and even at 42. Purdue puts the floor at about 40. The top of the plant is finished long before that. The bottom isn't. And Illinois explains why fall works at all. Soils hold on to heat longer even as the air is dropping, which is exactly what new roots want. So the 6 weeks in front of you are the best root growing weeks you've got left. That part's obvious once somebody says it. This part isn't. Minnesota, 2 sentences. Moist soil holds more heat than dry soil, preventing deeper frost penetration. And dry, droughty conditions negatively influence winter soil temperatures and cause root injury. Read that again. A dry bed doesn't just starve the plant, it freezes deeper. And their second sentence says dry ground drives winter soil temperatures the wrong way and that it injures roots. You're not watering to keep it green. You're watering so the frost line stops short of the crown. And Wisconsin's Laura Joel adds the bit that makes this a perennial problem rather than a tree problem. Watering matters particularly for herbaceous perennials because their root system isn't as extensive as a tree's. The oak can reach, your coneflower can't. One honest note, Iowa State's line about plants going into winter with inadequate water sits in a section mostly about evergreens. It says plants. I'm not telling you a university said perennials when it said plants. And here's why you'll never connect this to anything. Colorado State says plants weakened this way may die in late spring or summer when the temperatures come up. So it dries out in September and dies in June. And you blame June. One thing before I go on, and it's specific. Tell me in the comments how long your iris has been sitting in the same spot and whether you've ever had it out of the ground. Just the number of years. I want to know how common the thing at number 5 actually is, and the only way I find that out is from you. I read everyone. Number 3 is a list of 12 names. Count how many you own. Number 3. This is the one where the plant doesn't get sick, doesn't get eaten, and dies anyway. Iowa State publishes a list of perennials prone to heaving, shallow-rooted, and their wording is that a plant established a year or more resists heaving better. Here they are, as Iowa State lists them. Pincushion flower, coral bells, Shasta daisy, blanket flower, pig squeak, coreopsis, sea thrift, whirling butterflies, that's Gora, foam flower, foamy bells, garden mum, painted daisy, 12, and I'd bet you own 4 of them. The mechanism has nothing to do with cold. Iowa State, bare soil freezes and thaws over and over, expanding and contracting, and it walks the plant upward. By February, the crown is sitting in open air with its roots exposed. It dries out. In April, you decide it wasn't hardy after all. It was hardy. It got pushed out. 4 of those names I've put on lists on this channel myself, and I'm not taking one back. But I gave you 1 name and 1 warning. There are 12 names, and there's a date. The date is not now. Iowa State. Mulch goes on newly planted perennials in the fall after several hard frosts, and the reason is the weight. It holds the crown and roots down against the insulating soil. Put it on now, while the ground is still warm, and you slow the plant going dormant. So, this one's a diary entry, not a Saturday. Write November down. What you can do this week costs nothing. Illinois. Make sure plants are well anchored. Go along that bed with your thumbs and press. Anything planted this year that rocks is the one that heaves. And one thing I'd never have said if I hadn't gone looking. I tried to find an extension service that tells you to plant these deeper, and I couldn't find one. The fixes are weight, anchoring, and time. Now the part that makes this different from every other list this month. One job is on all of them. Clean the beds before the month turns. For one plant, doing it this week is worse than nothing. The iris again. Maryland. The female moths lay their eggs at the base of the old leaves and debris, and the adults are on the wing from August through early October. So you strip that bed clean on Saturday and they're still flying. They lay on whatever is standing there in September. Minnesota puts it in one line. Clean up iris beds any time after a hard frost. when the female moths are no longer laying eggs, and the bees want the same date. North Carolina State, cut between the first fall frost and the last spring frost, and you're not throwing any bees out because the stems aren't occupied in their first winter. So what can you do now? What's already on the ground? Connecticut's Agricultural Experiment Station gives it as a rule for perennials. Take the spent flowers and the leaf litter off during the season, and you hold the spore load down. One sentence for the whole month. What's lying down, you pick up. What's still standing, you leave. One exception, hollyhock. If it's finished flowering and it's got rust, Illinois says cut it off at the soil line and get the debris out. And pull the common mallow while you're there. Same page, it's a weed that carries the same rust. Number 2 isn't a job for the weekend. It's a soil sample. And it's the only clock in this video counted in months. Here's why it can't wait for spring. Clemson. Liming material takes 3 to 4 months to change soil pH, which, in their words, makes fall the ideal time to get it in for next spring's growing season. UMass says 4 to 6 months and tells you to start as soon as possible. 3 to 6 months. Count forward from a Saturday in March and you're fixing your soil in time for next August. Then there's the Q, and this is the number that got my attention. North Carolina's State Lab. Before they brought in a peak season fee in 2013, turnaround was often more than 12 weeks. 12. They're back to about 2 weeks by late February. Everybody's samples arrive at once, and everybody waits. Off-season, it's quick. New Hampshire says about 3 weeks. UMass is quoting 6 to 8 business days right now. Rutgers says a week or less, and adds, honestly, that these are estimates and not guarantees. Now the part I won't skip, because a soil test without it is worse than no soil test. New Hampshire. Lime should not be applied unless a soil test says it's needed. Too much lime can be as harmful as too little, and you get trace element deficiencies out of it. North Carolina State names one. Manganese deficiency turns up regularly after overliming in their soils. So this is not go and buy a bag of lime. This is find out first, then act, and you may well find out you don't need any. And I'll be straight about one more thing, because I went looking for a better reason than I found. The universities that push you to test in fall mostly give practical reasons. The soil is drier and easier to dig. The lab isn't buried. Nobody claims an autumn sample is more accurate. The chemistry argument isn't about the sample. It's about the lime and how long it takes to move. What a test actually tells you is availability. Vermont puts it plainly. It is soil pH that decides how much of the nutrients already in your soil can get into the plant. You can be feeding a bed that's full and starving. That's the envelope. 10 minutes, a trowel, and a stamp. Subscribe if you want the rest of this. 1 a week. And most of it is the jobs nobody films, because nothing happens when you do them. Before number 1, 4 jobs I'm taking off you, because they're on every other list this month and I couldn't stand them up. Stop fertilizing in August. Every cutoff date I could find belongs to roses or woody plants. UMass says don't fertilize after mid-July. That sentence sits in the roses section. And Maryland, on perennials, says the opposite. In late summer, feed the plants that bloom late summer into fall. Winter mulch, not now. Spraying the weeds. Penn State puts that window in September and October, and it needs green leaf still working to carry anything down. I did a whole video on both a couple of weeks ago, and there's a card up there for it. Cut it back so the soft growth doesn't freeze. For herbaceous perennials, I could not find one extension service that says it. The single firm deadline, Iowa State, stop deadheading in late August, names hybrid teas, grandifloras, and floribundas. Roses again. 3 of the 4 are shrub advice somebody copied across and nobody checked. Number 1, and it's the one you have to not do. Walk past your peony right now. It looks awful. Blotchy, flopping, half of it going brown, and every instinct you have says, take the shears to it and be done. Iowa State, 1 sentence. Plants cut back in August or early September may have fewer blooms than those cut back in fall. Fewer blooms. Not a weaker plant, not a vague setback. Flowers missing next June. And you will never connect the two because 10 months go by in between. Their timing is a hard freeze. In Iowa, late October or early November. So it stands there looking terrible for 2 more months. Let it. That's the 5th thing you do before September. It's not doing the 6th. 5. And notice how few happen above ground. 1 for today, 10 minutes at the base of every iris fan. 1 for this week, a trowel of soil in an envelope before the lab fills. 1 for November, mulch on the 12 and the beds cleaned out after the first frost. And the last is the shears, staying in the shed. Everything here pays out in March, April, and June. Nothing this weekend. That's the whole difference between August and September. How long has your iris been in that spot? Tell me below.